Joining me now is Scott Richards, the CEO of St. John's Program for Real Change. Scott, it's great to see you.
It's good to see you. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
So nice to be with you too. You mark 1 year, October 2025. You started in 2024. So that's an anniversary that has happened, as well as 40 years. St.
Yes,
John's Program for Real Change, starting on the front steps of St. John's Lutheran Church in Sacramento.
that is right.
Wow, what a legacy of lives. 35,000 women and children. 35,000. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's a powerful story. I just think about it's a story about the work in this community. It's also a story about how, as a community organization, this community has stepped up to really care for and look after women and children in need in Sacramento. I couldn't be more proud of who we are and what we do in Sacramento. It's a thrill to be here. It's been a fantastic first year.
You talk about that story. I want to ask you, first of all, what is the St. John's story for
Yes.
you that you want to share?
I want people to know one, the origin of St. John's, given that we started from this kind of motivation from, parishioners in the St. John's Church that looked outside and said, hey, we've got to do something about this, opened up the doors of their church and made space, and we've only continued to grow. And I think what is deep in our DNA at St. John's is that perspective that we look outside of what's happening around us and we think about what are we uniquely positioned to do? What can we do about this moment? And how do we create a space that allows people to come into a community that really want to transform their lives? When I think about the real change, we didn't start as St. John's Program for Real Change. It started as, a women's shelter. But I think the realization 10 or 15 years ago was we really just want to, how do we stop the cycle, right? The cycle of kind of coming in and going out, like life happens, like how do you confront and deal with that? And so who we are today is the same in the sense of we looked down and said, what can we do about this? And what we do now and who we are is creating a community where people can come together, women and their families, to get access to all the resources that they need from behavioral health and education and all of those things that matter. But it's really centered in what does that individual want for themselves and their family and their kids? And what I've learned, and I think what is special, is that when we start thinking about breaking the generational aspect to this, it's really the whole family. It's not just the woman herself and just the child. Now we have stories of, children and grandchildren and cousins and parents that are like, hey, if this person can do this, like, what do we need to do to take care of our family? So what I often say is that St. John's, it's more than a new start. I think that's what people think about. It's really writing a new story
Mm.
about who we are as people in this community. What is our God-given purpose in life? And how do we go after that? What do we need? I think I'll end this by saying one of my favorite quotes from a client is, when you wake up every day in a community where people want you to succeed, you wake up every day with purpose. And I think there's so much packed into that about who we are. We are a community. We want people to succeed around their goals. And people have a purpose in life, and we want to help people connect to that for themselves and for their kids.
I love what you said about waking up surrounded by people that want you to succeed.
Yes.
I also love what you said about this church looked outside its windows and said, what can we do
I
in
love
our
that.
own community?
I love that.
That can happen anywhere, in any church, in any business, in any home. We look outside of our windows and ask, what can we do to help?
Yeah. Yes.
But the key is that St. John's did this. And 40 years later, there are lives and generations
Yeah.
changed. So the 35,000 is the number of people who've been through the program. But when you talk about the lives changed and the ripple effects that flow far and wide, now I'm talking about all around this world,
Yeah. And it
because
is.
all
Yeah.
these people have had children and grandchildren, and who knows, in 40 years, there could be great grandchildren that have come along in
Yes.
St. John's program. Um, how have you had such a success story? 96%, am I accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you define as success first?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. When we think we've done some real thinking about this, like what does success look like? And so we really codified this or put this together, what we call the foundations for real change.
Hmm.
And that is that you're building and part of a community. You are building resilience, which has a lot to do with confidence. We talk about readiness as the third pillar of those foundations. Wellness is a big part of that. Like those are the foundations for real change. And so success for us is when somebody, it's not, I think we've all had that experience, of like, well, if we check the box and we've done these things, but this is more than that. This is somebody saying, hey, I'm going to be really clear on like, what does it take? What's the foundation I need in my life to really thrive in this community? We think those things matter. So success for us is when a client is connected in a community. Readiness has everything to do with from practical skills. I have the skills. I've taken classes, job training, resume, interviewing, at bats at interviewing. All those things are about readiness. And then the wellness and resilience are really those, they're kind of the intangible things, but they're things that when our clients can tell us, like, I have developed a set of tools that help me cope with the stressors in my life. Any person can relate to that that's in this audience, right? It's like, how do we cope with the issues and challenges of life? And they're saying, I have that. And then just the stability, right? Success is that I can not only have I found a job, keep a job. So these are things we track, we look at, but stability in employment, stability in housing. And when you talk to our alum now, that's the story you hear is like, finished St. John's. I got into my first apartment. And now you talk to alums like I bought my first house 5 years ago. I think one of our alum, Monica's talking about she's got that apartment. She's like, I'm saving up. I'm going to buy a home. I'm going to live in this community. That's what we mean by real change, right? There's a change in your mind, there's a change in your heart. There's also a change in what you can do and how you contribute and how you participate in this wonderful community we have. And I think what we do, we just open the doors, you're right. We open the doors and say, this is how you do it. So that's how I think about success. I think it's more comprehensive for us. I think that's the idea behind real change. It's not just here's the keys to a house, but really here's how we help you write a new story for your life, of which housing, employment, parenting is all a critical part. But it's comprehensive in what that change looks like.
What do you believe the magic is at St. John's that has been the enduring factor or factors for success? You did go through the
Yeah.
pillars, and so
Yes.
that naturally plays a role, but what is the key, what is the magic?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think in the last year, I get to see kind of the magic happen. I think that's one of the questions I've asked myself. And one of the enduring things I've seen, whether it's from staff, volunteers, we have an incredible volunteer base, you're a volunteer, like in everybody that's kind of part of the broader St. John's community, it's really an undying belief in the value and of every woman and every child that's here and is experiencing homelessness. That person is supremely valuable, cherished. We had a guest speaker recently just talked about like this is a place where a person can feel cherished, valued, respected. I heard a staff member say that we believe in second chances and we believe in third, fourth, and fifth chances. Like
Mhm.
there's not an end to the hope and the belief we have in the people that come through our door. And I think that's part of the magic. And the way that plays out is incredible displays of love
Mhm.
and accountability. I heard somebody say,
Tough
accountability
love.
is another form of love. It's like we have high expectations. That love or that belief about people, it's not just mushy, right? It is a comfort and a safe space, but it's also expectations and high expectations that I think also play a role in that. But it's really the mindset and the belief that when you come here, it doesn't matter what you look like, where you came from, what if it was under the underpass, overpass, it was under a bridge or in a couch or in a car. You came here, we see you as a whole person. And this is something that I said, this is another expression of the same idea. When I talk with our clients, we do a community meeting every day, and I said, you're here not because you're broken, but because you're strong. You
Mhm.
survived. And I think that gets to the heart of it, is like we know that there is brokenness in the world, if we could say that. But man, the ladies that come here with their kids, they have survived an incredible amount in their life. And I tell them, you're here because you're strong, and it's that strength that's going to propel you into a different future. It's that mentality that I think really powers the mission at St. John's.
Absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it about, you know, the feeling of being broken. But people can be put back together again. And
Absolutely.
a stained glass analogy that, you know, broken pieces of glass can be put back together, but boy, does the light shine through in a different, beautiful way.
That's awesome. I
And
love that.
who has not been through that in life,
Yeah.
regardless of circumstances?
Yeah.
We've all been through situations like that, but St. John's really takes it to the next level. What brought you to this program? We mentioned at the top we'd get to that, and I do want to.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Well, I was raised by a single mom, and I think as a kid growing up, my mom worked hard to create a home. And I think there's a difference between having a home and a house, and I think that regardless of what was happening around our family, me and my brothers, my mom worked hard to create a home for us. She had to, a lot of the kind of the path I see our clients, kind of traveling. I look back now and I say, my mom was dealing with that, from like paying the rent and groceries, childcare, putting herself, back to college to get a job and to become a world-class teacher. And so a big part of it is really the influence of my mom on me and the women in my life that have taught me what it means to build a family, to build a home, and to take care of kids. Like a lot of that I learned through my mom and other folks in my family. And so that's kind of a guiding value of like when I saw the opportunity to be part of St. John's, it struck that chord in me.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about St. John's. And really, I know there's so much conversation, in our community about unhoused and homelessness. And I liked what you were saying and we were talking about is like there's a lot of different experiences that happen in people's lives that lead to homelessness. I've learned that in this past year. And, one message I have is I would like us to, just kind of unwrap the empathy we have for people and humans in our community and understand that like if there's something we can do to support and contribute, besides kind of talking around the coffee table or dinner table, which is also important, but if there's something, if you feel it in your heart, like I want to volunteer, I want to give $1, I want to donate some food, that's how you can contribute to this. So I'd like to see us like kind of unpack the empathy, think about what actions we could take to get involved in the issue in our community because we need you. And that's what I want to say. We need people in this community. We have a wonderful community of donors and supporters and volunteers. We just need more people. And so that would be the last thing I would say is if you're listening and you're saying I should do something, answer the call, get involved. It'd be awesome and we'd be glad to have you.
Scott Richards, thank you so much. What a
Thank you.
blessing to talk to you. I'm so happy for your new role, and Sacramento is better because you're here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Scott Richards with St. John's Program for Real Change.